The second aspect to personal and social identity is deception. As we saw with the doctor and patient, the doctor expects full disclosure in order to be able to do his job and aid the patient in healing. And the patient is often apprehensive and holds back, and so often deceives the doctor, not intentionally, but by omitting certain things. We see that oftentimes in different kind of professional relationships. But we've got to make sure that we understand the difference between deception and ambiguity. Ambiguity means that for one reason or another, our view of the identity doesn't match up with what is in front of us. For example, in this picture, we have an ambiguous identity. There are certain signals being sent to us that it is a female or a feminine identity, and then there's certain things that are sent to us that are certain signals that are sent that are masculine and are a masculine identity. However, the goal here is to make sure that this is ambiguous and not deceptive. It's ambiguous because the person who did this, when they got up that morning, they probably did not set about saying, I am going to try and trick everyone. I am going to try and pass for someone of the other gender. I'm going to do something just to mess with people's minds. Instead, this person's identity just doesn't match up with what we think identity should be. And so if we think long hair, makeup must be a feminine identity, that may not be what's going through this person's mind. So the person is not setting out to deceive us or trick us in any way. It's just that there's some kind of cross-connect in that his or her view of identity does not match up with our view of identity. Compare that to Borat. Borat very clearly sets out to deceive. When he gets into character, when the actor gets into character and goes out and does these stunts, it's all in the name of deception. And so you have someone who is clearly going out of their way to deceive other people and making them believe that he's someone he is not. Whereas the person on the left is not going out of his or her way to try and be someone he or she is not. He or she is just being who he or she is. Quite different from Borat. So when we look at this in the global picture with the doctor, is the doctor ambiguous or is the doctor deceptive? And this is a tough question because there are times when the doctor is ambiguous, when he is just who he is, and the fact that he is an alien and a Time Lord and can maneuver through time and space, his ideas just do not match up with our ideas. But there are times in some of the episodes where you'll see that he does set out to deceive a particular group for the right reason, maybe, but there still is a hint of deception. So we're going to see the doctor wavering between ambiguity and deception. So, personal identity. Am I the same person as I was when I was born, when I was a child, 10 years ago, yesterday? Is there a single self linking all of these person stages, or are they just a succession of selves? What kind of adventures could a person undergo without losing their identity? For example, total amnesia, brainwashing, brain implants, the cyborg question, brain transplantation, teleportation. Some of these are going back to the questions that the philosophers asked. Some of the different philosophers said, am I the same person that I was yesterday? And many of them said, yes, as long as you can remember. I'm the same person, John Fields. I am the same person I was at 30, at 20, at 10, because I can remember being 30. I can remember being 20. I can remember being 10. Then we get to the last part then. Well, what would happen if I undergo brain implants or total amnesia and I can no longer remember? Then am I the same person? And other people have said, well, Yes, because your skin, your appearance, your body, your DNA, your genetics, those don't get changed. And at our core, our DNA doesn't. Our skin cells do. They change, and we shed our skin and we renew. And so the skin that I'm in today is not the same I was 10 years ago. But the core of me and my DNA is the same. Also, how people see me. So now we're moving into that aspect of not only is our identity ourselves, it's fluid, it can change from one person to another, it's multiple. I have different identities for different people, and it's also socially constructed on how people see me. And so even if I were to have a brain transplant, even if I were to have one arm amputated, I would still be me, because not only would others still see me, minus an arm, but they would still see me as John Fields. And I would still see myself as John Fields. Then we move into two philosophical questions. We're just going to look at the first one, Washington's axe. And this is a famous one that if I show you a picture of Washington's axe, and I tell you then that the handle's been replaced 3 times and the head's been replaced twice, how can we still refer to it as Washington's axe? So what you have on the screen, the handle has been replaced 3 times, the head has been replaced twice, so nothing that you see here is original. Washington's hand did not touch any of this, so how can we refer to it as Washington's axe? And I am going to put a discussion board in place and ask you to think about the Washington's axe enigma and talk about that. So look for the discussion board on Washington's axe.